We're now going to discuss physiological responses to altitude and exercise. So, when you're at altitude, there's less air and less oxygen in the air. So now you have decreased alveolar oxygen and thus decreased arterial oxygen. And then this hypoxemia can cause altitude sickness if you ascend too rapidly because you're not giving the body the time to acclimatize and make these following physiological adjustments, okay? So, what adjustments are we going to make? Are you going to breathe faster or slower at altitude? You're going to breathe faster, okay? And what acid-based disturbance happens if you breathe faster? What did we just talk about? So remember, this is respiratory because you're breathing, there's a breathing problem. If you're breathing faster, what happens to CO2? CO2 gets expired, CO2 goes down. What happens? Do you get an alkalosis or an acidosis from low CO2? You get an alkalosis. So you have a respiratory alkalosis. Next, the body will also compensate by changing 2,3-BPG synthesis from our red blood cells. Remember, what did 2,3-BPG do? Remember, 2,3-BPG binds to hemoglobin and causes a left shift, so that hemoglobin releases more oxygen. So you're going to get more or less BPG at altitude. Yes, that's right. You're going to get more BPG because you want your hemoglobin to release oxygen to tissue. Because you're not getting, these tissue aren't getting enough oxygen at altitude, so you need more oxygen release from the hemoglobin. And what's going to happen to erythropoietin synthesis? Remember that erythropoietin helps increase red blood cell production and hemoglobin production, so you're going to increase that to do that because you want more hemoglobin to carry more oxygen. Finally, decreased alveolar oxygen, what does that lead to? Pulmonary artery, what's going to happen? Dilate or vasoconstrict? Decreased oxygen. Hypoxia causes what? Hypoxia causes a vasoconstriction. And then remember, this was the unique thing about the lung. All other parts of the body, hypoxia causes vasodilation to get more blood and more oxygen to that tissue. In this case, you're going to shunt away the blood from the areas that don't have oxygen. But unfortunately, what's going to happen is you're going to get increased pulmonary vascular resistance. Okay, this is, remember, the pulmonary vascular lectures, where it's pretty much the same thing as always. If you decrease the radius, pretty much you get increased resistance. And if you have increased resistance, what's going to happen to arterial pressure? Arterial pressure is going to have to increase to maintain blood flow against the increased resistance. And now if you have increased blood pressure, increased pulmonary arterial blood pressure, you're going to develop pulmonary hypertension, and eventually it's going to back up and it's going to cause right ventricle hypertrophy because the ventricle is going to have to push harder against the lungs. So this can happen if this is a long-term problem, okay? This is a basic general problem. If you have hypoxia of the lungs, if you have low oxygen in the lungs, eventually you're going to get increased pulmonary vascular resistance. You're going to get increased pulmonary arterial pressure to combat that resistance, and you can develop pulmonary hypertension, right ventricular hypertrophy. So now we move on to exercise and what happens there. When we're exercising, we're increasing oxygen consumption and we're increasing CO2 production. Okay, what's going to happen? Ventilation and cardiac output both increase, leading to increased pulmonary blood flow. That's obvious. VQ ratio will then become more even across the lungs. When we said how the VQ ratio at the top and the bottom were both, the top was like 3 to 1, the bottom was 0.6. Now it's going to be more even as we increase ventilation and cardiac output to the lungs. Blood pH decreases due to lactic acid production. So this is all stuff you should be able to be easy, pretty obvious. Exercise causing lactic acid production, causing decreased pH. Now, how will our oxygen hemoglobin curve shift? Will it shift left or right with exercise? Remember that during exercise, we want our hemoglobin to release oxygen. We want it to release oxygen to tissue so they can use it. So we need hemoglobin to have a decreased affinity. So we're going to have a right shift. Okay, it's going to be a right shift. So remember our curve, this is a poorly drawn curve, but if we shift it right, what does that mean? It means that there's a decreased affinity because we need, for a given saturation, for this given saturation, let's say, I don't know what this is, 50%. For a 50% saturation, you need a lot more oxygen to saturate at 50% because there's decreased affinity. Okay, so this hemoglobin is gonna drop oxygen off to the tissue. Finally, what's going to happen to the airway partial pressures of oxygen and CO2, arterial partial pressures of oxygen and CO2, are they going to change at all? You might be tricked here and think they're going to change, but the answer is arterial oxygen and CO2 are going to be normal. Okay? And that's because, yes, we are consuming more oxygen, we're producing more CO2, but once we get to the lung, we have all these different responses. We have increased ventilation, increased cardiac output, we have this nicer V2 ratio. So, we're going to normalize this at the arterial level, okay? However, once this blood and the arterioles reaches the tissue, yes, you're going to consume more oxygen, you're going to make more CO2. So venous O2 content is decreased and venous CO2 content is increased, okay? But note that at the arterial side, before it reaches the tissue, it's going to be normal because we have this compensation. Okay, so that's it for our physiological responses to exercise and to altitude. Hope all this makes sense to you. Alright, now we're going to go on to pathology.